Welcome, guys, to Metallarian Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Dying Remains, this new album, Merciless Suffering, and more things related to the world, to the metal world in general. So we started by asking, how are you doing today, and how is the band since you started and now you are releasing this first album?
Uh, we're pretty good today. We're heading out to Portland to play. And what was the last little bit there about the album?
And so you are releasing this new upcoming album.
Yeah.
Oh well, okay. So let's talk about this. How when do you decide to writing songs for this new album? It was 2 years ago because I saw that the band started with an EP, with Split, and now we have this new album. So when did you decide writing songs for this new album? And all the songs are new, or perhaps did you rescue compositions that left for the previous records?
After we finished the EP, we started to slowly write for the album, but we didn't really get the first song done for the album until like January the following year, and then we just kept going. So we've been writing this record since about the end of 2023.
Hmm. Okay. Okay, so now you are releasing this first album with Maggot Stomp. So how it was the enter to Stomp to release this new album? What kind of expectation do you have when you work with a label? Because now, as you can see, there is a new movement. They release the music without labels and independently.
We've been working with Magastomp and Scott since we started pretty much. Scott put the EP out for us and that went really well and it was nice. And then even this time around too, he's been doing a lot of work for us for promo and really getting the ball rolling for the album rollout, especially since we are on such a tight deadline to release it because we're on tour right now and we wanted the album to be out for the tour. So like with the amount of time that we've had to promo it, it's been going really well so far.
Okay, okay. So and this topic, so why do you decide to lean down to the death metal stuff? So for you, what is the exactly motivation that you have when you create a songs that motivate you just a death metal songs? And why do you just not select, for example, a thrash metal band, black metal sound? So what brings to you the death metal that the other style doesn't have?
You guys want to answer that?
What's the question? What kind of death metal do we listen to write the songs?
No, like why do we choose?
Why do we choose to write death metal?
Yeah.
Because I think death metal is the superior subgenre in metal. I think we've all been listening to it long enough, maybe, that we know it and know how to write it. And it's not as techy as other subgenres, I think. It can be, but it can also be real dumbed down too. So
Mhm. Okay, okay, I understand. So, and what kind of bands motivate you, or what kind of influence do you have to create the band Dying Remains and Merciless Suffering? So perhaps a Finland bands, US bands, Swedish bands, because in general we can assume that all these kind of bands are your sound is like old school death metal. So, but what kind of bands do you select, for example, to create music or to like influence?
Obituary, Mortar Skull, Aspects, Jungle Rot, like a lot of stuff that falls in the 90s death metal that's a bit more slow pace, mid tempo,
Mhm.
and stuff like Sorrow and Bolt Thrower and all that. Um, yeah,
okay.
Okay.
yeah,
Seems about right. Yeah. Every single heavy part from Dying Fetus.
yeah.
Yeah.
Suffocation.
Modern bands, yeah, Suffocation. Trying to do what modern bands do, but not doing it as good. So turns into our songs.
Okay, okay, I understand. So now, what kind of promotion do you have for this Merciless Suffering in general? So perhaps you will embark some tours, present more videos. So what in general? So what kind of plan do you have for this new album? Perhaps also you are already working on a second album. Who knows?
Currently for promo, we're on a tour right now in America. It's our first American tour ever in promotion for the album. Uh, Merciless Suffering comes out this Friday, but we're in America for the next like 4 weeks
Mhm.
to just really hammer out promo for the album and try to get it around to as many people as possible. As for the second album, we haven't started that one yet, but probably when we get off this tour, we'll get started.
Mm. Okay, okay. Now, I saw that the creator from your cover art is a well-known artist like Lucas Corte to create this cover art. So why do you select to create the cover art for this new album with Lucas Corte? And also, what are the reasons that you select Lucas Corte that another artist doesn't have or don't have?
I really like Lucas's surreal style. He did our EP art as well. I really liked. I've seen his art for years. I just really liked it, and I always wanted to get something from him. So I thought when we started this band, it would be a good opportunity to get an album art or an EP art made from him. And as we were writing the album, I knew that I kind of wanted to go back to Lucas again to kind of get his very surreal, nightmarish looking art for the album. We thought it fit with the music well, and Lucas is a really nice guy. He knows what I want, so it's really easy to work with him. So it's nice to go back.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Now let's talk about another kind of things about well, especially in general for the death metal, because I was in the 80s or the 90s when death metal appears in the world, the first bands, and then with the second bands with this style, and all the time the death metal bring this technicality to the world. As you can see, thanks to the death metal, there's a lot of bands now plays technical death metal, progressive death metal, or extreme metal in general. Thanks to that, because before death metal nobody plays so technical like Morbid Angel, like Suffocation, like Death, or like Bolt Thrower since the 80s. Now, with these kind of things, we have a lot of technicality with extreme music in general, thanks to the death metal in general. So, and for this, what kind of opinion do you have for that now? That all releases has a lot of technicality, a lot of great musicians, a lot of clean music. It's not like the 80s or 90s when you find a record and the record, for example, two records not bad, and three records good. But now we have five records, and the five records sounds amazing with great musicians. Not bad records nowadays.
Let's take that one, Scott.
Yeah. Basically just like asking the opinion on the technicality of modern music, hey?
Right.
Um, I mean, the more we kind of delve into the subgenre and the more we move forward and progress in the subgenre, I feel like people are just trying to find their nuances however they can. Um, more technicality is being introduced because we have more incredible musicians that can produce that kind of music. But it really like, and I think this goes for every single subgenre of extreme music. I believe there is some sort of line where uh, you have to strike a kind of a balance between being original and then also kind of getting what you would like out of it.
Mhm.
So I think it's really cool that all these guys are taking their skill sets and producing it into this kind of extreme, not only just listening experience, but like this visual experience of watching them play as well. It's just so mind-boggling. But then
Mhm.
for us, we actually kind of take pleasure out of the complete opposite side of that, where we like to dumb things down and we like to make things like very caveman-esque. And uh, the only real technicality that we can produce for us is mainly in the solos more than anything.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that's kind of where our balance strikes for what we're all interested in and what we love to do.
Okay. Okay. So now, well, with these kind of things the new musicians, new bands, you can see there is a like 30 or 40 releases per weekend. So how do you see this topic now in the metal world? Because nothing is ever compared to the old days. Now you have, because I remember in the 90s we have 30 releases in 6 or 7 months, but it was 30 releases. Now we have 30 releases per weekend. So it's a different thing. So now in also the death metal at that moment, I remember great bands, but bad bands, etc. So what kind of opinion do you have for these overwhelming releases per weekend? More than 30, 40 releases and all styles, not just death metal.
It's pretty interesting sometimes because you can always end up finding a handful of new albums whenever you start looking for new music. And especially like the way that Spotify, Bandcamp, and YouTube work, and if your algorithms are matched for that, you're always going to see new releases, and they'll always be in front of you. And I think that's pretty cool. But it is pretty crazy the amount of albums that come out in a day to a week, and it's kind of hard to keep track. There's always so many.
Okay. Now, for you, as we have a lot of bands in this topic that are releasing per weekend a lot of albums. So for you, what makes it special Dying Remains compared to this well, overwhelmed 30, 40 releases? If we were talking for death metal, for this week, I think we have like 20 or 50 releases into death metal that seem just in your kind of style, mid-tempo or death metal, this situation. So for you, what makes special that Dying Remains for this first album compared to this, well, to this mass of productions?
Say it's our debut album that people have been waiting for a couple of years now. And the fact that we were in the States promoting the album, it kind of bumps it up a little bit. Mainly just the wait that we had people wait for the record, I think is what's going to kind of make it stand out a little bit more and help push it.
Okay. Okay. So other topic that is returning because there is a lot of things happen now in the music industry, apart from the digital platform. Because mostly I just spoke with a lot of new bands. They're trying to record the music in rehearsals in just one take. Other people's were recording the music without metronome and more things. So, and that's because they try to find an essence, a personal essence for these kind of things. So, what in this kind of situation? So, what kind of opinion do you have for this? Are like in new bands are trying to dig in with this situation, just to record without the metronome, to record, for example, in a one take in a rehearsal, not edit, no things that the technology helps sometimes to get a better record or a better sound.
I think it creates a really interesting atmosphere with whatever the band is recording at that time,
Mhm,
especially if it's just one take live off the floor,
mhm.
no edit, no messing around. It always sounds really interesting. It's something you're not going to be able to capture with the technology side of it, like using a metronome because of the natural push of the musicians. So I always kind of like hearing stuff that isn't on a click necessarily, or it's not maybe recorded the best because it is a little bit more interesting. Because there's just something you're not going to get from like an actual proper studio record opposed to somebody just like a band recording it in their garage.
To kind of add on to that too, I feel like we have entered this era of like regression in recording quality. And it's not that we can't do it, is that bands actually want to approach like a more not necessarily analog, but like the process of recording analog, like having to do a take from front to back and uh, trying to be on time with yourself rather than a metronome. And it
Mhm.
really does depend, I think, a lot on the actual band and the style that's being presented. Some bands will not sound good if they're not on a metronome, and some bands will not sound good if they're completely locked to the grid. So I think it has a lot to do with the style of the music being presented. And usually when people are approaching the recording process that way, it's very intentional.
Okay. I understand completely about this one. And other things that are related with this topic, as you can see, the new technology bring new tendencies. Now, thanks to this, the people in live presentation is not playing some like the old days. I mean, like the old days when I said this, is like with amps or with our crown involved of the when you play live, because now the producers wants to reduce the amount of the budget. When you bring a new band, you try to reduce, and just the producers are using just plugins or one people direct to the board, so not using our laptops just to hear, just not bring the amps to, obviously, to get cheaper the tickets and more things, because now is the world now. Just the bigger band has this opportunity nowadays to play live presentations with a crowd, with the amps and this situation. The new bands, because I spoke with a lot of new bands, and they told me that now the situation is like that. So the producer just provided the main sound, but no amps, no situations. And for some bands they like it, because they don't need to carry, or they need to hang the bigger amps, the and situations for this. So what kind of opinion do you have for this? Well, this will be the new world. The new bands are playing just without the crowd, with amps and situations like this.
Use real amps.
I still think that falls
Yeah.
under the same category of it really depends on the band. Like for a band like us, like we would not survive without an amp pushing air out of the speaker. We require that like type of tone. And me personally, I grew up on playing through tube amps and big 4x12 cabs, and that's what I'm mainly used to using. You know, you get a more technical like technical death metal band, they're probably going to favor something like an Axe FX or a Quad Cortex, like some sort of digital rig. One, obviously, there is the convenience factor of that, but just being able to produce any style of tone right at your fingertips is very, very powerful. And a lot of people really do enjoy that nowadays. But for us, I think we're very much rooted in that old school style of not only just writing our music but playing as well.
Mm. Okay, okay, okay. So, and we are very close to the end in this interview. And one of the last questions for these guys. Well, as a fans of the death metal, all the times we think that some bands deserve more attention since the 90s, or since the 80s, because mostly we're focused on the bigger bands now, DSI, Cannibal Corpse, or a bigger bands. But mostly there are underground bands that at that time, for me especially, didn't need to bring more attention because they bring a new sound. For example, Demilich is a great band, but nobody people knows about Demilich. And for me, need to at that moment need to more get attention for the people. So as you think as a fans, so which bands for you, since you started to hear this kind of music, deserve more attention into this death metal music?
You want to go first, Rachel?
You can go first.
I feel like bands like, especially like the early '90s, late '90s bands, there's a lot that kind of fell through the cracks, and like bands like Morta Scald and bands like Sorrow, especially Sorrow, very good death doom. Just stuff like that. It's really aggressive, it's angry, it's amazing death metal, but it just seems like it never really grew in popularity. And even for some of the newer bands around too, like there's Tribal Gaze, like they're finally kind of getting recognition, and they've been going pretty hard for a few years now. So it's good to see them getting bigger. And just a lot of bands that came from Magastomp too that ended up going to do onto bigger labels, like watching Frozen Soul get more recognition, and Singabog and 200 Stab Wounds get more recognition for playing death metal has been really cool to see. But um, what about you, Scott?
Um, I mean, I feel like every city has their phenomenal local bands that people aren't ever going to really uh, get to hear unless they start touring and doing that kind of thing. We have lots of great locals from our hometown in Calgary. Snake Pit, those guys are a phenomenal band that I think deserve more recognition.
Congealed Flesh
Congealed
from
Flesh,
Calgary,
yeah.
Alberta. Phenomenal band.
Young guys and Divine Apprehension.
Mhm.
I don't know.
There, honestly, it's one of those, like, it's a tough genre to break into. That there's a lot of people doing very similar stuff, and there's a lot more talented young kids than there pretty much ever was. So I think more than anything, go to a show. Just find your local scene, go to a show, and you're almost guaranteed to find something that you love. Your scene probably has some incredible bands that you have no clue even exist.